Welcome to 2017. I hope you had a wonderful New Year break. I spent a bit of time with the family, and then I did travel to my village. The village has a way of making you touch flesh. You get to see people, you get to see what the concerns of the common man is, because at the end of the day, service really is about the ordinary Nigerian. And in my time in the village, one recurring decimal was things are hard, things are difficult. 2016 was very biting and tough. And it was, no denying that. And my message was also very clear, that the difficulties of 2016, I point out to where the future of this country should be going. The story of Nigeria, largely the story of a family that has lived above their means for so long, a lot of times through borrowed funds, through selling down on strategic investments, and through not providing for tomorrow. And then 2016 was obviously a time when a leader came in and said, no, look guys, enough. We need to look at how to save for the future. We need to stop those things that are bleeding us. We need to live within our means. And so once you begin to make those adjustments, things look difficult. They almost look unacceptable to certain people. But if you look at the strategic long-term goals of what President Muhammadu Buhari is doing, he is saying suddenly, please stop. Let us live within our means. Let us try and grow the things that we need to feed with. Let us try and manufacture the things that we need to use. Let us look to the common man's survival. And it's going to take a lot of adjustment, a lot of difficulties. But that is something we must do if Nigeria must survive. So my message as we get into 2017 to you is, do not despair, do not lose hope, do not be frightened, do not wonder. Rather be energized, look for those opportunities, jump at them. And a lot of opportunities are being generated in the system by virtue of localization, by virtue of privatization, by virtue of focusing on opportunities that are inherent here. By virtue of making sure that everybody is throwing investment capital here. So despite the difficulties, I am very excited about the hope for 2017. I'm very excited about the hope for the future. And I ask you to come join me as Nigerians on this train of a journey as we look at the petroleum sector. Now, if you look at 2016, we ended the year by doing what we call the Ministry of Petroleum scorecard, which was a first attempt to look at really what did we deliver in 2016. And the essence of what we did was to ensure that everybody who has been on this road journey with us will be able to travel with us on this train of difficulties and see where we failed and where we succeeded. And that those who are actually delivering those services will suddenly get conscious of the fact that we serve at the mercy of the electorate, we serve at the mercy of Nigerians. And so we have a responsibility to continue to account. But more important, it was a way of a stakeholder inclusion. How do we ensure that all of you understand what we're doing, what we're trying to do, where we're going, what mistakes we make, and how we're trying to correct them. But again, it was an element of transparency, because for so long, the oil industry had been hidden in this opaque, never accounting type of structure. We broke that in 2015, 2016. We said for once, we're going to be able to account to Nigerian people for how we manage their resources, because at the end of the day, these resources belong to you, they don't belong to us. In 2016, let me go with you some of the notable achievements that I think we recorded. The first was through the instrumentality of the presidency. His Excellency was able to find time to help us launch one of the major road shaping projects of 2016, for 2017, and that was the launching of the 7 big wins. The essence of the 7 big wins was to set the path for us in terms of what we need to do, the key things we need to focus on to reposition what was obviously becoming a dying oil industry. We were able to sign, for example, the JVs following that, historic framework on how we're going to fund the JV, the joint ventures, which Dato has struggled in terms of funding, and so oil production was declining at a very accelerated curve. With this, in 2017, we expect to see a bullish re-entry by the majors and everybody else into the oil industry trying to find reserves. We did extensive work on instituting policy reforms with special focus on petroleum industry governance bill. We created new oil and gas policies. We're finalizing fiscal policies. All this will be looked at by the executive and pushed out as the basis upon which we're going to look at the new IPIB. So suddenly, whatever we're doing, we're praying to provide long-term sustainable policies that will drive them even after we're gone from here. We embarked on market liberalization of the downstream sector. And for the first time, I'm sure at least you would notice that fuel was available all over the country, and that it was available about the same price. You didn't have people in the East paying ridiculous figures, where people in the West were paying lower figures. It was available, same price all over the place. You could drive into your filling station. For the first time in over 2 decades. That was a major achievement. But that was as a result of the market liberalization that we had done earlier in the year. And one of the nice things about that is that suddenly we found that the consumption of our PMS on a daily basis has shifted from above 50 million liters a day to about 28 million liters a day, which means that we've basically taken away an unaccounted excess fraud impacted volume of nearly 40% of consumption. If you translate that to what it does for your foreign exchange survivability, it is massive. We thank the president for helping us do this. We'll look at Nigerian content achievement. How did we get Nigerians to participate in the oil and gas industry? We witnessed a steady increase of 180% from 15 to 42 Nigerian content compliance certificates being issued by NCDMB between January and November of 2016. The Nigerian content level on projects increased by 20.8% from 35% in 2015 to 55.8% as at the end of third quarter 2016. On Niger Delta, which was the big elephant in the room, we continue to look for policies on how to address those. Policies included a fairly well-managed security apparatus that enabled us to maintain better peace, and we thank the people in the military for all the help on that. But more fundamental was that engagement, although it was not celebrated, was very intensive in the operational areas. And so you found a relative peace in Niger Delta. We started from an all-low production point of 1.3 million barrels and rose to about 1.9 million barrels. Hopefully, if we can sustain that pace, which has been very robust in the last 1 month, you will see we'll be able to get back to our production. Now, on the international front, we achieved quite a lot in 2016. First of all, we became, for the first time, a recognized nation that will help OPEC navigate its problems. We became the center points for engagements with Saudi Arabia, engagements with Iran, engagements with Russia, and help OPEC be able to propagate itself to a point now where we've signed a cut agreement that has brought back prices from an all-time low in the year of about $30, $35 a barrel to now about 58, and we're hoping to trend towards the mid-60s as we get into 2017. Nigeria was very instrumental in this for two reasons. One, because we were able to elect a Nigerian, Sanusi Bakindo, as Secretary General of OPEC, which was a huge achievement for us in that year. But two, working collaboratively with my good self and my team and all the relations we built over the years, we were able to influence age-long enemies to come together and work for the common solution of OPEC. That paid off. Of course, we occupied the presidency of both OPEC, the GECF, which is Gas Exporting Countries Forum, the African Association, Producers Association, of course, the West African Gas Pipeline Association. We held the presidency of those for most of 2015, handed that over to 2016, but continued to make a substantial contribution and behind-the-scene influence, serving as lead in most of the committees that were set up by these bodies. So on the international front, for the first time, Nigeria got back its pride of place as a recognized nation with a substantial influence and ability to make things happen on the international front. We're going to need all of that in 2017 to keep the prices going northwards and stabilizing those. Of course, we established the National Council on Hydrocarbons, which had been lacking, which means that we brought in all the stakeholders, be the community leaders, be the security officers, everybody who has an impact one way or the other on hydrocarbons. We brought them to have a meeting. Ministry did an extremely fantastic work on this to make sure that we brought all them and held the first hydrocarbon National Council meeting, which involved everybody. The essence of that was to gauge your feeling, gauge your contribution, and see how you can help us shape policies. We'll continue with our massive reorganization of NNPC, which has started in 2015. My successor, Baru, has continued that whole process. The whole idea is to focus NNPC on accountability and profitability. The NNPC of today was not the NNPC of yesterday. Huge amounts of chain movements have happened. We still struggle in certain areas, but for a company as huge as NNPC with a 30, 40-year history of doing things, that was a massive mainstream movement. But one of the fundamentals of that change is the creating of semi-independent substructures that were focusing on refinery, focusing on gas, focusing on the upstream, so we can then begin to get them into this new year to become self-accounting in a way that they can take responsibility for their P&L. We succeeded in partial resuscitation of Port Harcourt Refinery, Warri Refinery, and Kaduna refineries. Not to the levels where we want them, but by the time we took over, remember they were all comatose, nothing was happening. We got them to a point where they're doing about 7 million liters contribution to the about 28, 29 million liters that we do on a daily basis. That's a huge movement, but there's a huge amount of work still required to be done in refineries to get it to where we are. So you look at all those and say, then what's for 2017? 2017, we're going to be running with rocket pace. We have so much to do. We're going to ask you to join this, join this, call it a firefight, a massive airplane that is going to be running at neck break speed just to achieve certain things. We're going to be passengers in it together, ourselves, the service providers, yourself, the stakeholders and owners. One of the things we're going to focus on, first of all, we're going to firm up our policies, be able to gazette all our oil and gas policies, and then pass the PIB. We're going to accelerate federal government revenues. Look into areas where we could have made more money and the federal government has been losing low-hanging fruits. We're going to be looking at that so we can support the 2017 financing through royalties, improvement in royalty collections, improvement in through early renewal of leases, and through every other area where we feel that there's a bit of a gap. We're going to be seeking to attract investments and complete all the MOUs that we began, the one in China, the one in India. We're looking to do a roadshow to the UK for Europe. We're looking to do a roadshow to the US with Donald Trump coming in now, President Donald Trump. And we're also going to be looking, quite frankly, to draw on the relationship that the president has built over time and do a roadshow to the Gulf. So that suddenly Nigeria ceases to be a simple, forgotten state to one of an active participation bloc where investments can flow into this country. We're going to be conducting oil blocks allocation and marginal fields awards to try and raise money for the government and get you invested in some of those sectors. Gas revolution is going to be key for us. First, we'd like to track gas flare and commercialize it so that no more flare happens in this country. We've set a 2020 date for ourselves, even though the international fora, the UN, has set a 2030 date. We're very aggressive about this. We want to make money from flare. We want to look at our gas infrastructures that are suffering. Some of them have been constructions going on for over 10 years. We need to move on. We need to find out how to complete these investments and suddenly begin to get gas to flow in every part of the country. But that is key to power delivery. We need to start the refinery revamp. The president is giving us a marching order on that. We still remain committed to our goal of 2018, reduce importation by 60%, and 2019 try and exit importation of petroleum products substantially. But over and above that, we need to begin to diversify this refining process to be able to touch petrochemicals, touch all manners of potential subsector deliveries, so dirty oil, clean oil, and all that, so that refineries finally can work. And we have marching orders to do that. We hope to start that whole process this year. Now, we're going to continue to focus on downstream issues, because although we've liberalized, there are still some challenges. The reality is that marketers are still suffering because the price at which the products are landing are slightly less than the price at which they're selling. We're going to see how we work within the liberalization infrastructure such that we're able to take away the low-hanging difficulties. We're going to have to focus on Niger Delta. It's been too long a lingering issue. We're going to be working with every aspect of the presidency to try and find solutions to this. We're going to work to stabilize oil production. 58 is beautiful. 65 is even more excellent. But to keep that, a lot of work is required. Work in engagement, work in cost cutting, work in business environment development, and work in substantial diplomacy. We're going to be working on those. Begin for the first time to track oil production from production to destination. There are too many seepages, too many leakages, too many stories about produced oil in Nigeria. This year, we're going to commit to trying to find a way of tracking our oil so that from the moment one molecule is produced to the time when it is sold and where it is sold, we'll be able to track that. If we do that, we envisage billions of dollars in savings for the federal government. We're going to develop an agreement and framework for attachment opportunities with IOCs and partners so that we all can work collaboratively. It is no longer an adversarial role. We've got to work as partners. We're going to force them through very engaging policies to bring in investments into this country. I am told that with the JV cash call sign-off, we're looking at investments in excess of $10 to $15 billion over the next 2-3 years. I'm going to be working with them very collaboratively to deliver this. Now, obviously, cash call rollout we've started, we need to complete the loose ends of it. We need to pay what is outstanding for the federal government. We need to put the governance structures in place. We need to be able to work with these partners to finally begin to run an oil industry on a best practice, world best practice level. We need to develop and publish periodic information newsletter and set up feedback mechanism for the public and stakeholders. So it's a huge amount of things that we're taking on for 2017. Now, does that frighten us? No. And I hope it doesn't you, because you're part of the Rider Club in this journey. Rather, let us be invigorated, let us be energized, let us be futuristic in the hope that we can achieve all this. So, where do we end? For me, key issues, investor relations. We've got to make sure that our investors find Nigeria as the most comfortable place to drop their billions of dollars before they go anywhere else. So whatever regulatory overhangs, whatever policy somersaults and difficulties they have, I'm going to work with them to solve this. I'm beginning my first roadshow with investors by going to Italy, for example, to meet with Ajib, and I'm going to do that around the clock for the 5 or 6 producers. And the same benefits will translate also to local producers. We're going to firm up long-term markets. We must stop the year-to-year crude terms, contracts, gas sales. We've got to go to long-term markets. That's what everybody in the world is doing. Nobody's letting their oil circulate and be priced inappropriately on international markets. You've got to find who are your long-term partners, what do they want, how do you sign 5, 6, 7-year strategic relationships. We're going to be working on those and gravitate away from the year-to-year contracts that you see prevalent in this industry. We've got to move to a private sector-led industry. So far, it's been a public sector-led, and a lot of difficulties we've had is this public sector dominance. Public sector is key to be able to regulate the sector and make sure people are operating within parameters, but ultimately the infrastructure has to be private sector-led, the investments has to be private sector-led, the services have to be private sector-led, the discipline has to be private sector-led. So we're going to be galvanizing the energy of the private sector. And very soon, within the first 2 months of this year, one of the first things we're going to do is have a private sector industry player club to chat and rehash what I'm saying to you into what our goals are for 2017, and be able to mark out the delivery items that they're going to set for me to deliver for them. And I'll also be able to mark out the deliveries I expect them to deliver for me for the excellent working of this industry. This is going to be the beginning of a gas revolution here. For so long, we've pretended to be an oil-producing nation, and yes, we were. But quite frankly, Nigeria really is a gas nation with a lot of substantial gifts of oil. What am I saying? We have more gas, 3 times, maybe 4 times, 4-fold volumes of gas than we have of oil. Oil has led us here. Oil obviously will continue to lead us for a while, but gas is what the future is going to be. Gas is going to provide your power. Gas is going to provide your clean energy. Gas is going to provide your day-to-day burning fuel in your homes. We need to begin to utilize gas in the way that, and it's going to take away the whole environmental pollution problems that we have. Now, we're going to have to focus on stakeholder relations. I'm going to begin a roadshow with state governments, trying to bring all the oil-producing states together to look at long-term dynamic investments in their areas, cross-border, cross-state. Look at how they engage all the components in their state in this, managing this beautiful resource that God has given us. So there is a lot that is going to happen. I'm very excited. I'm energized. Spending time in the village did bring me to the reality of the fact that at the end of the day, oil belongs to you, and we've got to touch you as we develop oil. I wish you a wonderful 2017. This year we're going to be open. You're going to be as much the manager of the oil resource as I'm going to be. And we're going to owe responsibility to the Nigerian nation to deliver on those blueprints that we have set ourselves to deliver. I thank you very much for all the success we did in 2016. We couldn't have done that without you. I thank you for having continued to ride this rough and tumble roadshow with us. But we're getting there. The vehicle on which, or the fighter plane on which we're moving is beginning to move first in a jerky way, now in a subtle, revolutionary, steady pace. What we now need to do is to give it the zip direction. Thank you. Take care of yourself, and God bless you.